Wow. Thank you for staying. Yes? Your camera doesn't work. Sound? Yeah, can you hear me? Can you type? Hello? Oh. What about a Q&A like this? You... Okay. Of course not. Everybody can see what you're writing. Watch out. I'm there.
I think it's.
I think you need
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi.
That's good.
I expected you in pajamas.
No, not yet, Mihai.
Okay, good.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see your film again as well. It has been a distance of at least 2 years, right? Since when did you finish it? 2019, 20?
No, it premiered 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen an older version.
That's quite possible. Yes.
Pre-premiered version. But I just wanted to say that you have a huge audience, especially for this hour. Everybody's a hero here.
Thank you so much. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I really admire people to stay up this late. Wow, now I can see it. There's a lot of people there. Great to see you. Wonderful.
I think it's more than 50. More than 50. I don't know. I haven't counted.
That's really amazing. And I'm really sorry also for not being there. But we have to make do with this, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you're here in this form. I hope your body is closed. No, I was just wondering, watching your film. I'm just throwing questions already. If you think it's a film about others or it's an autoethnography about others.
That's exactly. I came across that line recently, an autobiography about others. I'm quoting now somebody, but I'm not recalling who it is. But I guess that's one way to talk about film. But that goes very much to my understanding of anthropology. That we always have to be transparent as to where our thoughts and views come from. At least in my anthropology, I think I always need to make that move, not to simply talk about the others, let alone try to define the others, but always to see that all that we study and all that we therefore also film is encounters, and it takes two to tango. In this approach, you will always also think about yourself, and particularly in this film, I think there was such a different understanding in the beginning, at least, of the process as to what a body is and what a body can do. I'm socialized in the Netherlands, where there's so much emphasis on bodies being closed, and I sort of guess in Germany it won't be all that different. We put a lot of work in keeping up this fantasy of a closed body. I don't know, in Germany, in Netherlands, there's this weird law which prescribes that if you build a house, there need to be 2 doors between the living room and the toilet. And this has everything to do with that we don't want to hear the sounds of the toilet, because they remind us indeed that bodies are leaking vessels. And so we have heavily invested in this idea that we are closed entities. And studying in Brazil, no, not Brazil, studying in this very particular corner of Brazil, where people have bodies that need to open up to receive spirits. Bodies, by necessity, need to be other things. They need to be more open. They need to be porous, and so there is a different understanding as to what a body is. And I think the film sort of brings that out. But actually, I think since the pandemic, we've all learned a hard lesson about the porosity of our bodies. This was the irony of making this film. I finished filming just before the pandemic started. I came back, I think, in a sort of mix up all these years. I think it was February 2020, if I'm not mistaken. But I came back, and basically the Netherlands went into lockdown, and all of a sudden we all had to start wearing masks and be very conscious of the boundaries of our bodies. So the editing process was done in this world, which all of a sudden had to re-engage with the porosity of their bodies. So I think as a subtext that is definitely there in the film.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was like a really elaborate answer, but
it's always
and also I think like autoethnography is an ethnography that is obviously sincere, and it's made with the body as an instrument of research. And like you've shown in most of your films that you use this instrument quite a lot. But now I wanted to ask you another, let's say, more or less personal and provocative question. But as you led to a lot of yourself being seen in your films, that I'm allowing myself to answer, to ask you this. If you're a believer in candomblé, and how does this play a role in the research? How do you position yourself, not as an anthropologist, but as a believer or a non-believer? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I'd say I'm a wavering believer, if that's an answer. I think like a wavering believer, like on the all the time. I think what I try to do is open myself up to the possibility of spirits, which actually is the title of my first film. Because I really think as an anthropologist, this is what I need to do, to not knock on people's door and say, I come to study you, but by the way, spirits do not exist. I mean, that's just not a starting point for any research, at least not for me. But what I also learned is that believing in spirits or indeed in the rituals that you just saw, that is not something like a coat that you put on. I've been socialized in a world where I've been told that spirits do not exist and that they're just a misunderstanding, basically. And it's not like, oh, from today onwards, I want to believe in spirits and therefore I can believe in them. So it's much more opening up to the possibility of spirits, which means that in fleeting moments, you all of a sudden have no longer any difficulty to see the reality of them. I think that is more that would be the honest answer, I think, to your question. And to say whether I'm not a believer, I'm definitely ever more impressed with how little I know and how much more there is out there in the world than what I can grasp. So if that makes me a believer, then yes. But in this very particular way, I would say.
But does that make you like a half practitioner? I don't.
Yeah, maybe I sign up for that idea, a half practitioner. Although I'm not quite sure whether that is an option in Candomblé.
That's it.
But there's a certain, I think it's more in terms of desire. There's a certain desire to in the beginning, if we just talk about spirits and spirit possession, because that's the most obvious part of this religion. In the beginning, I was just very scared of it because in our definitions, much of what is spirit possession is called madness. It borders on lunacy. So it's scary to go there and to open yourself up. At least for me, there are more courageous people who have no such problems. But for me, it was scary in the beginning. But now I've been walking there around for 20 years, so that fear has gone. I'm no longer scared, but now I have to see that it just doesn't happen. Again, this is not something, oh, I want it and therefore now it will come to me. That's not how it works, apparently. And people keep also telling me that my spirit will not descend from his throne, as they say, to possess me. And by now, there's also a pity not knowing what this might be like. But who knows? I'm still going there. So maybe someday Oshosi decides that he will descend from his throne.
I see. I want to open up a little bit the discussion towards the audience. Yes.
Hello, Matthias. I'm very pleased to see you again.
Hey, that's good too.
I'm very happy to have seen your film, and I have so many thoughts in my head, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna phrase them all. So, firstly, it's intriguing to see your filming style because it's always a very thoughtful approach that you have, which I adore. Like you have an ability to play with my nerves that is like I'm sitting on the edge of the seat. Like and the beginning, the scene where you show something to the people, to the gentlemen, that they just start laughing. And I have this inner desire to know what it is, but I'm not going to ask what it is because I think that desire is what makes it fun. Or for example, in the end, where you have, I think it's called patua, where you open it up, and I still don't know what's in this little piece of paper, which now that I've seen this film, I somehow I somehow wish that I had a double screening back then in Hamburg. But anyway, I do have a question though. So, which always like about your films is that there's also like this deep, intimate part, a sexual part, which has your own personality in it. And I remember we have a short, we had a question about the other film that you made about colonialism, and you said that you would elaborate it in this one.
Mhm.
And watching this now with the gaze of historical gaze, where you look at, for example, the book with the archive footage, if I may say so, like those pictures,
Right.
and also in the end the paintings of those weak-bodied, if I may quote you like this, weak-bodied doctors. It was always like this look in the past. Were you afraid to somehow join it to the present, or I was somehow missing well, how would I say that, the modern or the today's view on it. Do you understand my question in that sense?
Yeah. Sharp, Johan. I have to think about this. I mean, so not consciously, that's what I can say, that I really felt that both the black and white photographs were very important to signal that these ideas about the need to have a closed body are grounded in a very particular history, the history of slavery. And the last scene, I think, well, that is, at least is the present, where Rigny, this friend of mine, keeps insisting that I look exactly like one of these doctors, me not liking the comparison, but nonetheless, he points out something that is very important, that even after 20 years, I can, as an anthropologist, tell myself, oh, I've so closed in on this community and I'm almost part of it. Well, no. When a moment like this signals that you will always be an old white male who comes and goes there. And so that was, if you want, a wake-up call. But I like your question because what I hear you say is you transport issues of colonialism and racism and black and white relationship to the past, and you avoid going into it in the here and now. So I'll take that thought with me, and I can't answer you now what I would want to do with it. But you absolutely made a point. So thanks.
Thank you for your answer, and I'm quite fond to see the upcoming films that you're probably, I hope, are making.
Yeah.
And in the end, just also a short note that I adored the scene with the music of Bach again, and then the somehow, well, let's say violent, well, what's it called? Where you? Oh, okay, so I've been told. Okay, sorry. There's another question, but yeah, thank you, Mattijs.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. And I'm glad you bring out that scene because it's one of my favorite scenes, I have to say. So there, the idea really was for me to, because the opening off of this animal is a sacrificial animal. I'm just so aware that for a Western audience, this, if I would not put Bach there, this would probably only be like yucky. This is gross. This is violent. This is terrible. Whereas that is not at all what it is in that particular setting. This animal had the honor, if you want, to be sacrificed and to become the bridge between the gods and the people who are there present. And you see in the hands, the treating of that dead animal, that there is a tenderness there. There is love almost to this animal. And I was really looking, how can I signal that to an audience here? And then I thought I have to show the beauty of it, and Bach helps you to see beauty. So that was basically the idea, that Bach in a way forces you to step out of your frame of seeing this image, and in a way helps you to see something else. So I was glad to hear, Johan, that it worked for you.
Well, I don't know if it worked for me, but
Tell me. No, I want to hear.
no, but I think that's the beauty. I mean, it didn't work for me, but I understood that it's your take upon that, as like exactly what you said, like a white European male studying that, and so I thought it was clever, but in a way, I also missed a little bit of more lively scenes, like you did in your last film. I guess it was more a bit of the experience of others in relation to the experience of yourself, while I think in this film it's a bit more your own take upon these experiences, you know. But
Okay.
that's just, of course, my impression.
Mhm.
But I was wondering, in this whole context of like violent Brazil and how you've, well, the some also the bad things about a culture that you are obviously fascinated of. I was wondering, like, why keep it in a very pristine looking rural areas? Because I think where you can see even in the architecture, like the skyscrapers in Salvador or other places, then you have like these visual signs that are a bit more symbolic in that sense. Like, I didn't feel threatened, or I don't know if I should, but I felt that these images of, nice rural landscapes, it kind of, it was a bit forced, the meaning of like spirits around there and things that are, of course they are, but like visually speaking, I don't know if you understand my question. But...
No, I totally get it. Well, I think the most important answer I have is I work in Santa Amaro. That's the place where this is what the world looks there like there. But that's a bit of a easy way out, because I do realize that intuitively I go for pretty pictures. The aesthetics of my films is always going to the picturesque. I'm totally aware of that. I also wonder about this. I cannot really explain myself why I want to make these kind of images. For me, it would be a bit cheap to immediately the suggestion to go to a big city, to opt for the concrete, for the graffiti, for the broken streets, or that look. I'm not sure that would work for me as signals of a violent world. I think maybe the fact that violence also occurs very much in these beautiful landscapes is a contrast that I find more interesting. It's less obvious, probably. But again, I guess these are also what our eyes in the end register, and what we want to. Yeah, I think what images we want to make in the telling of our stories.
No, I totally agree. I mean, but I was just thinking about that because you also have like a lot of artifices, like things that you create, you put on mise en scène. Then why not play around with like various landscapes? Then I don't know. I'm just.
I take all of this with me, Mihai, because there's new films coming up. So
Cool.
thanks.
Looking forward. Do we still have time for some questions? Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, my question is a little bit more personal. I would like to ask you how, like, did you build up the relationship with the participants? Because quite soon during the film, for me, became like evident that, of course, you hold a power position on that scenery, and now hearing your answers, I think you are quite aware of that. So I would like to know, how do you face that situation, and how that situation also mediates, how do you portray that reality, and how do you develop also the narrative?
Okay, thanks. Yes, that's obviously a very complicated issue. I'm already, for 20 years, I go back and forth between Brazil, this particular place. That's by now, I think, 12 years that I work with these people. So some of the people that you see, I know them from a long time, and I consider them to be friends. So that is the relation that I have with them. But I'm totally aware that we can be friends, but there are extreme differences in terms of power, I guess, in the sense that I'm the one who comes and goes, who has a bank account and a salary, and has the money to have cameras and can rent a car to go there. So that obviously creates, defines very much also my position and my role, I guess, there in what is a very poor, extremely poor community. That this discomfort, I cannot argue with it away. That discomfort is there, and I think it's part and parcel of my anthropology and the fact that I go to these places. So I have not, and I'm also not particularly interested, if you want to smooth it out, to say this is how I deal with it. It in many times it feels uncomfortable. I would not, however, say that all power is with me. In many ways, they have other sources of power where I am the dependent one. So that's part also of the interactions. And yeah, I guess that's what I would want to say. Does that answer your question at all?
Yes, a little bit, but not completely, to be honest. But
So
also,
push me.
it's not enough time to continue. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, still, you said that, of course, they also hold power. They are moving in their reality, so of course they have certain, yeah. But anyway, you control also like the ethical decisions surrounding the film. How do you interact also with the people behind the camera and all these issues that, again, it's just my personal opinion. It's the first time I saw a film from you, but became quite evident that there is a strong like force behind controlling what is happening and how it is presented.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's the genre of the essay film. Really is an authorial film in which I, as an author, take responsibility for a story I want to tell. One of the discomforts that is part of the essay film is that its procedure is deeply allegorical, meaning that the people who appear in the film become, in a sense, allegorical figures, meaning they play a role in a story that I want to tell, in a thought process that is mine. Frankly, I think this is what all anthropologists do. We all go to the field with certain theories that we're interested in, with certain topics, with certain themes that we want to explore. And we engage people in a research. And then very often, also when we write, we select quotes from interviews. We make a selection of the materials that we present that relate to the story that we are telling, that we are engaged with. I take responsibility for that story, and I also invite people to disagree. I know there's a whole move of collaborative or co-creative filmmaking, which sort of tries to seek a solution for this issue. But frankly, up till now, I'm not really interested in that. I'm really thinking, no, I'm an author. I'm trying to think through certain themes. And yes, these themes, they go through my mind. It's my story that I tell, and I take responsibility for it. And as I said, I'm aware that this is an allegorical procedure.
Thank you so much. I think we ran out of time, but tomorrow there's a symposium on collaboration, and we're gonna sort it all out.
Good.
I'll send to you the brief,
That
and then
sounds
you
great.
start collaborative filming.
All right.
Não, mas thank you so much. And que pena que a gente não tem você aqui.
É verdade, verdade. Thank you so much,
Good night.
everyone, also in the room, for having stayed all the way through. Much appreciated, and have a great festival. Enjoy every bit of it.
You don't do.
I'm so sorry.